Hi everybody, this is Noelle from Petitti Garden Centers, and we're here in Oakwood Village. And today we're going to do a spotlight on ground covers. We've had some questions about ground covers, and hopefully I'm going to show you some varieties that aren't your typical ground cover. We know about English ivies, we know about myrtle or Vinca minor, if you know the botanical name. We know about Pachysandra. Those three in particular, they're non-native to Ohio. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with selecting those types of evergreen ground covers and things. But maybe trying some other options would be really, really good. And so I want to show you some other varieties of plant material that can really highlight your garden. And ground covers, there's really good reasons to grow ground covers out there in the landscape. And one of them obviously is to beautify the landscape. Of course, we're always looking for, beautiful color, whether it's foliage, flowering, texture, but ground covering provides another layer of plants. So, if you think about how we talk about the bones or the structure of a landscape, it's usually those woody trees and shrubs that we start out with. Then we start to fill in a little bit more with perennial color and texture. And ground covers is just that kind of last finishing touch that works really, really well in the landscape. But the practical purposes of ground covers are really cool too, in the respect that ground covers are your replacement for mulch. We use mulch so much to suppress weeds, to keep in moisture, and it's almost come commonplace that that sort of brown or black edge that you see out in the garden, it keeps the area very tidy and so forth, and it does its job as well. But you could replace it with ground cover species, and when you're doing that, obviously you're increasing your diversity of plant material. You are also increasing the benefits to the environment and the wildlife when you're planting those types of plants as well. And they're doing the same job that mulch does for us. But they keep on growing and filling out and maturing, and then you can divide and continue to plant as well. So try it, just think about it. It's really a great way to go, and does, again, keep the soil cool, keeps the soil moist, suppresses weeds. So it does all of those things that mulch can do for us and just continue to mature on. So these ground covers that you see are all perennial ground covers. So they're going to come back for you year after year. Most of them produce 3 seasons of interest. So you'll see them spring, summer, and fall, and they'll typically die back over the winter time, and then they'll rejuvenate and become new. What's nice about your ground cover species typically is you don't have to do really any cutbacks or anything like that. They'll just kind of grow through the seasons for you. And, after, like I said, after a few years, you can go ahead, go in, divide and transplant and move them to new places where you need more ground cover. So that's always really, really great. To start out with, lots of different varieties that I'm going to show you today, but there are some Veronica ground covers, sometimes called Speedwell, that are really, really pretty. And this is one of them. This one's called Sunshine. You can tell it's very low and mounding. You can see how kind of cushiony it is. This is one of those ground covers that you can plant in between stepstones if you want to. It can take some light foot traffic on it because it's so cushiony. Really, really great, dense, obviously beautiful yellow foliage. So you get that bright, neon yellow chartreusey color out there, really highlights an area. Veronicas, for the most part, grow in full sun to part shade. This one produces a tiny little white flower. To be honest, you can barely see it when it gets going, and it's usually later spring, early summer when it does produce that. It's really the foliage effect that you're getting with this plant. So again, nice and tight. Next to it, this is lamiastrum. Lamiastrum, this one's called Herman's Pride. It's kind of a cousin to Lamium, if you've ever heard of Lamium before. And this ground cover is really, really great. Again, foliage texture, kind of pointy and arrow-like foliage here. And then you've got the silver mottling throughout. If you like yellow, it does produce these yellow hooded flowers. The bees really like these guys through here. This is obviously a taller ground cover than the Veronica I just showed you, usually about 6 inches or so tall in the landscape. Really, really nice and really, really deer resistant. Okay, so the lamiastrum family has great deer resistance to it. I should say the Veronica does pretty well. Again, it's very dense, it's very low, and you rarely see any damage in that ground cover as well. As we go around, I'm going to go this way and I'll show you the Lamium family. You just saw lamiastrum, okay? And sometimes it's called lamiastrum, sometimes called yellow archangel, believe it or not, common name. The Lamium here, common name is dead nettle, which is just terrible. It's a lovely, lovely plant. It, again, has a little bit of fuzz to it. So when I always talk about deer-resistant plants, fuzz is really, really good. And it also has a little bit of a strong, bitter aroma to it. Hence, very, very good deer resistance. Okay, so keep that in mind. And bunnies, you don't see rabbits around this either, okay? With the Lamium here, you'll notice very, very light colored, almost silver, pure silver leaves here, a little bit of a green edge as well. There's purple. This is actually purple dragon. It's not just blooming just yet. Well, I guess we're getting a few little spikes here. But as you come around, you see pink pewter. Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? And these guys, if I'm holding this upright like this, we're talking about 10 inches tall in the landscape, okay, at max. And yes, they spread, and you can tell, and that's really the whole idea, the whole habit with the ground covers, is that they'll keep on pushing out those stems. Really, at almost every node, when they touch the ground, they'll start to root, okay, and then they'll keep on continuing to cover. I've really never had a problem with Lamium taking over. You just need to chop it. Go ahead and go in there with a sharp spade or shovel. Go ahead and take out the clumps that you don't want continuing into the garden and plant them where you do want them to continue along an edge. And they do really, really nicely for us. Lamium is typically more of a part shade to shade grower. You can put it in full sun. It'll get crispy edges because of that silvery, usually with that silver foliage, it can get a little bit crispy, but does very, very well in the landscape and can take dry shade too underneath trees. So if you're trying to kind of fill in that mulch circle around a shade tree, Lamium's a really, really good choice. This pretty one is Ajuga, okay? Ajuga is also known as bugleweed. Again, common names are so much fun, but this one is gorgeous at this time of year. You can see their nice purple spikes. This is their best time for blooming, but they will continue to produce those purple spikes throughout the growing season for you. We love burgundy glow because it has the green, the white, and that pinky purple color throughout. So that variegation is really, really gorgeous on this plant. And then this is Bronze Beauty. I always forget this one, Taylor. Black Scallop. Sorry, Bronze Beauty is an old one. I gotta clear that out of the memory banks. But anyway, so Black Scallop, really, really dark, chocolatey foliage, very glossy, really, really pretty in the landscape. And again, those really pretty purple spikes coming up. Now, you can tell, again, Ajuga will grow, and it grows a little bit more like stolons. So strawberries are stoloniferous, where they'll send out sort of that small clump of plants with roots on them, and Ajuga grows that same way. Again, can be aggressive in a garden if it's really, really happy. But I'm going to tell you, this plant can grow in full sun to full shade, and sometimes it doesn't spread, uncontrollably. You can go in again and just reduce the clumps and go ahead and move them where you want them. And I really enjoy it. Again, same thing as an edger, as something that will grow over the sides of maybe a little rock wall. And you can also use it as a lawn alternative too. So I've kind of been experimenting with that a little bit as well. As we go around the corner here, and We were talking about Veronica, that yellow sunshine earlier. There are two Veronicas here, very different colors as far as flowers are concerned. And I think a lot of folks think of Veronica as Speedwell as that kind of spiky Veronica where it has the tall spiky flowers to it. So these ground cover types are very, very different. And so you're seeing Georgia blue here. So if you're really interested in a nice deep blue flower, this one has lovely, lovely flowering on it. Nice green color, a sort of a darker green, a little bit of bronzing to this one. And the more sun it gets, the more of that bronzy hue you get on the foliage. Very nice. Again, a little bit taller. We're talking about 10 inches maybe in the landscape, but can kind of lay down at times too. So you get sort of a little bit of a undulating effect going through the ground covers there. And then this one, I love this one. This is waterberry blue, and you can see it just has that kind of pastel periwinkle color to it. Really nice foliage as well. A little bit more compact than the Georgia blue, but really, really pretty. And as Taylor sweeps around, there's a lot of, you can tell how well it tends to branch and come out. Again, I've never had a problem controlling Veronicas. Again, use them as edges and start filling in those spots. Veronicas in general, though, do like more sun than some of the other ground covers. So that's why I keep on reminding everybody, this is more of a sunny type. The Lamiums and the lamiastrum is more of a shady type. Okay, now this one is just starting to bloom here. And again, you see this low cushion of foliage here, green foliage. This is a really cool family. It's what we call blue star creeper, but there's a light blue, a dark blue, and a white. Botanical name has changed a little bit. Laurentia, you'll see it, or also isotoma. And these are really great ground covers for that, part shade to sun. So kind of in the same category with the Veronica here. But this one, these guys, they can take some foot traffic, okay? Again, it's because of that real nice cushy habit that they have here. And what's great about them is when they bloom, they do bloom in cycles. So you'll see it all come out, bloom really nicely, kind of fade a little bit, and then start to come out and bloom nicely again. So they're really pretty in the landscape. And again, just make a nice tight border or edge or in between stepping stones. Really, really cool. Now I'm going to walk around this way, and the Dianthus family is fairly large. And we have a video on the Dianthus family. And this one that you see here, this is all Sweet William. Okay, so Sweet William is Dianthus barbatus. Anyway, might have gotten that wrong. And with this one, your Sweet William varieties are what we call a biennial. So they grow 2 years, and then hopefully they shed seeds, which Dianthus are pretty reliable in doing that. And then they die back, those original plants, and then you get the new plants to grow up and flower for you, okay? So 2 years on a life cycle with biennials. But again, because they're prolific reseeders, you don't really notice a difference with these at all. And they're just starting to push up and bloom. And I'm gonna reach out to this one. And you can see those kind of flowering spikes, and then the flowers that will start to develop from it. Very, very fragrant, really, really lovely, sorry, and cushiony. The foliage is low and mounded, but still not real compact like the Laurentia in front of it. So this is gonna be a nice garden edge or border, but wouldn't be able to take any foot traffic like some of the other ground covers would be able to do. Oh, there's a red one just starting to come up here. Full sun typically with Dianthus. They can take a little bit of shade, but typically full sun with that family. And again, really, really sweet smelling if you're looking for some fragrance. early bloomers with the Sweet William, so you don't see them blooming throughout the season. And I'm going to show you some other Dianthus that are really better repeat bloomers and true perennials, so they'll continue, you know, growing for you in the garden. But again, a nice consideration for a ground cover if you're looking for something a little bit more classic and definitely fragrant for you. Okay. Now, thyme family. This is the thyme. This is actually woolly thyme. I love the feel of this plant. So again, low and very cushioned ground cover, very tight, really, really nice. The flowering on this is more midsummer, and it's a very, very light, very small flower on the woolly thyme. The woolly thyme is more for that foliage texture and feel. Again, very easy to tread upon, so that can go in stepping stones and things. With the thyme family, these guys are really good in full sun. They really want to be in those sunny spots. So do put them there. And they like well-drained soil and do very, very nicely. Okay. And I've got some thyme just over the border here, so we'll get to that one as well. This one is sort of unique. This is Cerastium or Snow in Summer, and it is obviously a silver foliage type perennial ground cover. It does have that fuzziness to the foliage like a lamb's ear would have, or a dusty miller. So it's tomentosious. It does produce these white flowers that you see popping up. And I'd say the foliage itself is no more than about 8 inches tall, but the flowering can grow up to about 12 inches. Okay. Now, this in a ground cover basket, okay, it gets a little yellow because we're real wet this season. And so needless to say, you're seeing a little bit of yellowing, but if it's grown in the right spot, full sun, well-drained soils like rock garden type soils, that plant will stay nice and clean for you and will do its thing, stay that beautiful silvery gray color, produce the flowers in the spring, and then we'll just kind of hang out the rest of the season. Okay. Don't let this one get wet. That's what happens. It yellows out when it gets wet. Oh, and behind me, this is a great one. Look at this. This is Catula or brass buttons, and looks like a little mossy fern. It's so cool. I love this plant. I'm going to pull this leaf out. And this particular variety is called Platts Black, and we love it because of that kind of darker bronzy purple coloration. Really, really great low growing ground cover. Again, cushiony, so we can put it between stepping stones and things. Really nice edger. You would think that it would want to be in shade. It can take part shade to full sun. It really is just a cool textural plant. It does produce flowers, and they're these little yellow discs that just pop maybe an inch or two up above the foliage. But I just love the foliage texture. This is one of my favorites. It's really, really cool. And yeah, just the texture of it is so nice. Okay, let's pop around the corner, and I should show you creeping phlox. Now, if you're looking for sort of a native alternative to ground covers, the phlox family is going to be one of your best alternatives. Okay. And there are phlox for the sun. Creeping phlox really prefers sunny spots. And then there's also shade phlox, and we'll show you that as well. And they work so well. They can really take a lot of different soil conditions and sun conditions and just do a nice job filling in for us. And of course, creeping phlox look lovely in springtime. They're really starting to pop up and fill up in the landscape right now. Lots of different colors, usually on the pastel side of colors. So you've got your pinks and your blues and your purples. There are whites. There are like candy striped varieties too, with white with a little bit of pink. You can look at the eye color too. The eye color in the center is always really pretty as well. So plenty to choose from with creeping phlox. Creeping phlox, again, I mentioned sunny spots. They like it in the sun, and we'll show you the shady phlox in just a little bit as well. Okay, keep on coming around. And I wanted to show you, this is another type of thyme here. This is Mother-of-thyme, kind of a, if you will, larger plant. And I should have mentioned, woolly thyme has some aroma to it, but not very strong. But the fuzziness, of course, no problem as far as deer resistance is concerned. But Mother-of-thyme, oh my gosh, it's so aromatic. So as I'm just kind of putting my fingers through this plant, it is really releasing a wonderful aroma. The Mother-of-thyme, when it blooms, it has a really pretty kind of hot pink, almost violet flower to it, and it'll flush all at the same time. Really, really beautiful, lasts for about, I would say about 4 to 6 weeks, and then it'll die back and you'll still have that beautiful green foliage. So this is a really nice choice. Obviously a little bit taller than the woolly thymes here, but really great filler, beautiful for the sun. And then look at this one. You see here, this is one of our shortest thymes. This is elfin thyme, and you can tell it is not even an inch. It really doesn't even grow an inch above the soil that it's planted in. And again, if you want something real dense, real aromatic, not quite as aromatic as Mother-of-thyme, but real aromatic, nice kind of lavender violet flowers, really, really cool plant. So again, for sunny options, you've got 3 different types of thyme that will fit in different areas and do really, really well for you. I'm gonna have Taylor turn around. I hate, Taylor's like spinning all over the place today. And I wanted to show you Candytuft or Iberis. And the Candytuft is a classic garden plant, really for full sun conditions, rock garden conditions as well. So we really want it to be well drained. It would go really well with that snow in summer, the Cerastium. But this plant, again, as a ground cover, it's not as, let's say, fast growing as a creeping phlox or a creeping thyme, but boy, would it work really, really nicely if you're looking for a little bit more fragrance, or you need just a plant that'll make a nice mound for you and keep on expanding as it goes, okay? And then also the Dianthus family. So we were talking about Sweet William before, but my goodness, on either sides of this aisle right here, we have all different types of Dianthus. And again, we have a video on Dianthus for a little bit more in-depth coverage, but there are some varieties that are really meant for a lovely sunny border. And one of them is Kahori. Kahori here, you can tell, very short Dianthus, maybe 4 inches tall, and profuse repeat blooming. Okay, so these Dianthus families really have a lot more flower power bred into them, and these are the true perennial type where they're going to come back year after year after year in the garden, provided they get that full sun condition. They would prefer a little bit better draining soil. I wouldn't throw them right into a heavy clay. So try to build them up a little bit, plant them, and hopefully that'll drain that water away from their base so they don't rot out in the base. But you can tell, look at, oh my gosh, so Kahori red, and this is the original Kahori, and you can tell Kahori has that red color is a little bit deeper magenta, and then you have a nice deep rose pink. So awesome, awesome ground cover, especially edgers and varieties for you to grow. We're here at the Irish moss, the nice Kelly green one, and the Scotch moss, this bright chartreusey yellow. Great plants, really great ground covers, a little bit slower growing, so you're not going to get that real fast coverage from these plants, but wonderful. And you can really grow them in, I like to see them in part sun. They can take full sun conditions. They can actually take some shade conditions as long as they're well draining. You won't see as much flowering on them as you would in sunny spots. And when they do flower, it is all these tiny white flowers that just cover that kind of spongy, cushiony foliage. So that is a great choice as well if you're looking for just some mossy color and texture. This is a classic. This is sweet woodruff or Lamium. And oh my gosh, I love it as a ground cover, typically for those shady spots. So part shade to shade, you'll see these beautiful white flowers in spring. Flowers will die back, but look at the foliage texture, really, really pretty. And it gets its name from how aromatic, very sweet fragrance when you go ahead and you break these stems. So this is a really good one for deer resistance. And I'm kind of trying to think back to when I've seen ground covers really have a problem with deer browsing and so forth. And for the most part, I'm thinking most of the ground covers we've shown you today really don't have that many problems as far as browsing is concerned. You may see some rabbit browsing every once in a while, but with deer, it just doesn't seem like, it almost seems like they're almost a little too lazy to get in there and really start to forage around. So look for sweet woodruff. This is a great deer resistant shade ground cover, sort of mounding and then sort of fills out. And again, it might not be as aggressive, and I hate to use that word, but it might not be as fast growing as far as coverage is concerned as some of the others, but still a great grower in this area. I told you I'd come into the shade area, and I wanted to show you this phlox. If you find phlox blooming at this time of year, shadier areas in the garden center, this is a great plant for ground cover. Now, Blue Moon's a little bit taller, don't get me wrong. It is probably 12 inches, maybe 14, 16 inches in the garden. So it's a tall one, maybe more of a next level to that ground cover edge. But again, can spread, not aggressively, but in a good way, right, through the garden, filling in areas. And Blue Moon is so fragrant, wonderfully fragrant. So that part shade to shade condition, really nice. This one can take a little bit more sun too, so you can put it out in sunnier areas. So look for your phlox family as a really good native, to fill in as a ground cover for you. We're up now in the full sun, out from underneath the irrigation, and so we are near the Sedum family or stonecrop family. And there are so many wonderful ground cover options with stonecrop. There's a lot of different colors, a lot of different textures. So pick your favorite and grow them. They're so cool. Very easy to propagate and grow and divide and all those good things. So I wanted to show you, just look at all the color and texture in the foliage, and we'll go, variety by variety. But really, if you have dry, hot, well-drained areas down by the mailbox, out in a full southern exposure, you need a nice edger. These are great plants to put there. And again, they spread, but not uncontrollably. You can just dig out the pieces you don't want, move them to another area. I use them in container gardens lots of times in areas where I don't get out and water, and just let them fill and trail out, and it works wonders. So do check out the stonecrop varieties. This one right here, I love the color of it. It has a really pretty blue-gray texture to it and color, not texture, color, sorry. Beautiful rosette texture to it, but look at the stems. Kind of a mauve-y purple, and it will kind of change colors through the season, maybe a little bit more purple, maybe a little bit more silver as you go through. And then it has really pretty pink flowers, typically midsummer when this one grows. This one's lycodens. I don't know if I said that. Sorry if I didn't mention it. And then right behind it is a real compact variety. This is tricolor. Tricolor, you have to look close, but it has pink and white edging on it, on its little green scallop foliage. Really pretty. This one, golly, it's so funny because I don't even remember. It definitely blooms pink, but a light pink color. But the foliage color on that one, I really enjoy that. And then Angelina, love her. This is a great foliage plant. Obviously beautiful foliage color, very, very hardy, very low to the ground. It looks like it's going to grow up a little bit taller. It really does not. You might get, you know, branches that'll come out to about 6 inches or so, but it is so great, and you can literally just crack pieces off and place them in the ground and they'll fill out, and it's just a great, great variety. Get that nice neon chartreuse color for you. Behind me is Blazifolda. This is a nice dark, if you're looking for more of like that reddish maroon color. Beautiful, stays nice and tight. It does have kind of a dark pink flower midsummer, but you just can't beat that foliage color. It's absolutely gorgeous. And across the way, we have sort of the green complement to it, John Creech, and then also Voodoo. I probably should go over here, Taylor. John Creech is just bright green, really, really pretty. Obviously, beautiful texture to that plant. Medium pink flowering in the summer, but look at, we've got Voodoo here too. Similar to Blazifolda, just a little bit bolder, more red when the coloring really develops on this plant. And again, more of like a hot pink flower on it when it does bloom. But just the color and the texture right now, they're just phenomenal. And again, for those drier, hotter places, they'll do really, really well. The last thing that we wanted to show you up here in ground covers is the Delosperma, and it's kind of a cloudy day out right now, so they aren't open. And so I wanted to show you, these are called ice plant, and you can tell very, very low ground covers as well. We're getting a little warmer, folks, in the winter, and Delosperma are zone 6 bloomers. The key with these guys that you need to know is that they really, really need that well-drained, rocky soil. So these are perfect for those rock garden conditions, raised bed areas, really hot, really sunny, but wonderful sort of succulent, hardy succulent plants that will bloom all season for you, as long as they're in the right conditions, and will continue to come back for you again as long as they're not sitting in water. That's no go for them. But look for Delosperma out there as another ground cover option, and Taylor will show you a picture when they are in flower, because they really are spectacular, really, really pretty plants. I guess the other thing that I forgot to show Taylor is division of your ground cover baskets. So if we look at a ground cover basket like this Blazifolda, you see these 3 stripes down below. So what you do is you can cut this basket where those indentations are 3 times, okay? And then make 1 cut right up the middle. So you end up with 8 pieces of plant material, right? Did I do that right? Yes. And those sections, those 8 sections, can be planted 12 inches apart. So if you're making an edge, 12 inches, 12 inches, 12 inches, okay? Or if you want to, and you just want the whole thing to just grow and have a nice mound to begin with, you can take this whole basket, plant it right in the ground that way. Or you can just divide it in half and have 2 sections if you like. It's really up to you. But these ground covers are such easy plants to divide and transplant that you could section them up however you like, use them however you like, plant them in whatever planting scheme you like, and they will fill in and do their job for you. One last one that I didn't want to forget to talk about is lamb's ear. And I absolutely love this plant. It really does its job for you out in the garden. It's really meant for those sunny to part shade areas. Obviously bold textured foliage, gorgeous and soft. Love the feel of lamb's ear as well, but you get that silvery green color out of it. This is Helen von Stein. So Helen von Stein is supposed to be a non-blooming, almost non-blooming. Every once in a while you'll get some spikes of flowers coming up from it, but lamb's ear really does a great job as a perennial ground cover, and you'll have it for years and years and years to come. Very easy to divide, very easy to transplant into other areas. So if this is something that you're thinking about and you want this kind of color and texture and softness to the garden, it really can kind of cool down really hot colors, but it complements all of the pinks and purples as well. So try lamb's ear. I love it. I absolutely love it. It really does not require a lot of maintenance at all. And in fact, very little maintenance. And I think it'll do a great job for you for a ground cover. Enjoy.